Welcome, everyone, to Evolution on the Mic. I am your host, Ariana de la Cruz.
I'm your co-host, Antoine Dove.
And we are here, season 2, episode 2 of the Power of Words series, Speaking Your Life into Existence. Today, we are going to continue in the series of how your behaviors births how you feel. That is what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to kick it off how we did last week. But before we get there, I want to check in with you, Antoine. How are you? How's your week been going? How's things? Anything new?
No, I mean things are great. I think last time we talked, I was explaining to you about how I was doing my 90-day look back since I had left my job and just reflecting on some things. There was some interesting things that came up. One of the things that did come up for me is leveraging my skills as an operations executive. I was the vice president of operations for an e-commerce brand, leveraging that expertise to help other entrepreneurs because that was the position I was put in, right? Like I joined my daughter's mother's company and helped create a lot of the operations processes and things that they put in place there that helped her to get her company and scale it and sell it. So I want to leverage that and to help others. And so I'm now working on that as well to bring that into the mix of value adds that I can bring to the world and bring to others. So that's been fun, like going down that path and working on that as well. So that's where I'm at right now in terms of business wise. I'm still working on the business. I'm getting close to the place where we'll eventually close on that, but the business hasn't closed yet. So that's still also in my window. So that's where I'm at right now. What about yourself? How's things going on your end?
Oh man, it's been a lot of amazing things, a lot of shifts that has been happening for me that I'm so grateful for. As you know, last we spoke, I had left my 9 to 5,
That's
and
right.
I
How's it
know
going?
amazing, beautiful, thriving, clients, still working on, new clientele like almost every other day. So it's been beautiful. And my business is referral based. Like I have not paid not one dime on advertising. And
Wow.
I'm getting like a new client every other day. And it's just by referrals. Like I help somebody and that person tells their friend and tells their family. So I mean, it's been amazing. You'll be surprised how many business owners are out there that don't know about business funding, or the people that know about business funding. Like I had a client tell me, oh, I applied for a business credit card and his approval amount was very low. And I'm like, the minimums I get my clients are like 25, 30,000 on just one
What?
card.
20
And he was like,
stacks.
wow, I only got like 3,000. And I'm like, if I would have done it for you, you would have seen the magic, because when I do it, it's magical. And he was like, oh, you getting me hype? And I'm like, don't worry, I got you. So it's been great to have those conversations, to connect with different people when I don't expect it. So like when my phone rings, I'm like, when me and Antoine, we're talking, I'm like, Antoine, hold up, I got to pick it up. I don't know who this is.
Yep.
So I'm never missing out on an opportunity. So no matter what me and Antoine doing, I mean, if we're recording and my phone rings, of course I won't answer. I'll be tempted to. But I never know who's calling me because my clients are from, all over the United States. So they're in different time zones. So what could be a late time for me may be early for them. So
Right.
no matter the time, I'm picking up the phone. So that has been going great. But one of the biggest win for me has been that I know in episode 1, I said that I don't know what's going to happen with my living situation, right? Because I am looking to invest and I am looking to move. But I said, maybe for me for the next year or two, it may be that I'm renting again, right? And it will have a water view, right? Or somewhere like near the beach.
I remember
And
that. Yep.
I literally, have secured a beautiful luxury apartment that was literally just
What?
built. This building was just new construction, was just built March of 2023, so not even a
Wow.
year ago, and it has 25 floors, and I'm like close to the top of the building, so I'm like close to the penthouse, and I have a direct
Nice.
view of the ocean. It has a private beach. There's
What?
$1 million marinas of boats that I have views to that are just right there. You know what I mean? There's a sauna, there's a steam room, there's a gym, there's a music theater. I mean, a movie theater in the complex. And many people will probably be like, girl, you just left your 9 to 5, and now you're going to pay like double rent than what you're paying. now. And it's like, absolutely, this is how good God has been in my life. This is how good my businesses have been going. God, this is
Preach.
how good I've been to myself and following the everything that I, was called to do. So that is something that I'm very proud of, that I knew that that was going to be the way that God was going to lead me, but he wowed me. This was huge. I didn't even know this community existed. And the way I came across it was just God led. The people that he put in my path to bring me across is the only apartment that I've toured when I said I'm going to move out of here. The only one, the first one and the last one that I went to go see. I just knew it was mine with no
Wow.
fears.
Look at God, man. Look at that. That's a huge win. Congratulations to you. We definitely
Thank
have
you.
to shoot a podcast episode in this new place of
Absolutely.
yours
Already
for
called
sure.
it. I already called it. As soon as I seen the place, the first thing I told myself, oh, we're definitely going to shoot here. I mean, it has its own private beach. It has a private restaurant.
That
Like,
is
you
nice.
can, yeah, a bar, restaurant, like right downstairs. I mean, it is very, very luxurious. And, it's something that I get to experience. And when you treat yourself like luxury, when you see yourself like luxury and you think you're the best, everything that you come across will be the best, will be luxurious. And
That's a bar right
there's
there.
more for me where that came from, because one day I will own like a very nice house in Costa Rica by on the beach with a beach
Mm-hmm.
view, with mountain view, and I am going to have that luxury in a bigger scale. But right now with this is a major win for me.
Let's go.
God is showing off right now. And I'm grateful to showcase this to the world. Like, this is like the beginning for me. And there's so much more. So you know what I mean? I want to stay humble. I want to be grateful. And I am. I
Yeah.
just see God, and I love how God sees me. So
Mm.
that has been, the newest thing for me since last week.
Wow. Wow. I love that. And again, I'm super happy for you. I
Thank you.
don't know anyone that's more deserving. I know I've seen behind the scenes how hard you work for your clients and how hard you've worked for yourself and how much time you've put in to get where you are. And this is just God continuing to show you that your dedication and commitment to Him is being rewarded. Like He's just giving you the tip of the iceberg. He's like, there's so much more to come. Ariana, your faith in me. I mean, we've seen that in the first episode that we did in this new season, right? What's coming to fruition now is exactly what you spoke in 2011.
Yeah.
Everything. It's like, wow. So congratulations. And yes, I can't wait to come visit. So
Oh yeah, that's definitely gonna happen soon. Give us like another few weeks, another month, I'll settle in. And I'm in there in next month, so for sure. So back to business, back to this amazing episode that we have for you guys about how your behaviors births how you feel. So, last week we spoke about how your beliefs shapes your behaviors and it births your behaviors. So now we're going to talk about, once you have the behaviors going, or once you're doing the right things and you're letting go of things and you're sacrificing and you're stopping all these things, you start to feel differently. And I want
right.
to also show the power of words in this specific topic about how your behaviors birth how you feel. So we're going to show a clip of, again, it's 2011, 13 years ago. I was 23 years old, and how, this kind of relates to everything and bringing it all together. So take a look.
Nice. I love these videos.
No, you're here for a reason. We're all here for a reason. We're all here for His purpose, and the more enlightened we become and the more we walk towards Him, He will unveil to us our greatness. I'm still learning and I'm still trying to enlighten myself, and I will continue to enlighten myself through reading, surrounding myself with those people that have that mindset, that positive mind attitude, you know, um, and just being free. I have no problems with sacrificing, which sacrificing is one of the biggest components to being great. It's, you just can't think you're gonna get to, high levels of life and be someone of great success, of noteworthy success, as Napoleon Hill would say, noteworthy. Um, there's no way you're gonna get there without sacrificing.
Wow. Ari. Yeah,
Yo.
I'm loving how we're getting these almost like tidbits of where you were at that place in your life in 2011. And it's almost like each one is building on top of another. Like the first one we heard in the space you were in, you were just talking about the behaviors that you were starting to change because of the belief systems that you were starting to develop. And in this next one, you're even taking it a step further to talk about how those behaviors that you did change are now starting to produce all these different feelings within you, like the feelings to want to learn more and dive deeper into your leadership and your impact, which you talked about earlier on in the episode. Anyway, like I love the conversations that you're having around the books that you're reading and what you're diving into about how you're feeding your mind. I think it's so important. Like I think that's one of the things that is oftentimes missed. Like I know it's easy to feel lonely. I know it's easy to feel alone, but there's so much that can be learned and so much of a connection you can have through just reading about someone else's life. You'll learn a lot. You will
Yeah.
learn a lot. And I loved how you went on a fact finding mission. It wasn't like you stopped. You had this vision. You're like, I want to be this. Like you already, in 100 years, I'm going to be this. I'm going to be having an impact. And it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to take the actions. Like they always say,
Yeah.
faith without works is dead. You not only had the faith, but you took the necessary steps to understand what are the people doing that I want to emulate. What are they doing? What are the things that how are they thinking? How are they living their lives? And so I loved how you took this one and even talking some about sacrificing, how you took this one and brought us into, hey, I changed all of that. I changed my behaviors based off of my belief systems. And this is what it's producing inside of me. We get the inside feel for you. And I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, no, like definitely how I started to feel once I started changing my belief systems and my beliefs shaped my behaviors. So I started changing things, right? I started, eating differently. I became
Right.
vegetarian. I stopped drinking. I stopped going outside and I started reading. And all these things made me feel like different. Like I felt
Mm-hmm.
light. You know what I mean? And when I started dieting, I just want to say, yes, the weight came off, right? I lost like 90 pounds in 8 months. And yeah, that happened for me. And it was great. The weight loss was great. However, what was even more great was the connection that I felt with everything. I felt like I
Mm-hmm.
was one with life. I felt like I was more connected with God than ever. Like my relationship with him, my connection with him was magnified to a level that I never thought was possible, to a
Mm-hmm.
feeling that I never thought I could feel, that I didn't even like. It felt like magic, I promise you. It just felt surreal to feel that connection, that from the divine source. But more than anything, it was my connection to that how I felt one with life. And it extended to not only my relationship with God, my relationship with myself, but my relationship even with nature. Like, I started just feeling one with everything, with um animals, with trees, with the water. Like I swear I felt like the water was calling me. Like, I don't care if people think I'm crazy all you want. I would just, and I fell in love with the water. Like I felt like every time I go to the beach, I just felt a connection with a big body of water, especially the ocean, which is why I'm grateful to be moving somewhere that has a big body of water. It's something that awakens my spirit and I need. And the visuals of it just brings life to me. So all these things started happening when I started like changing my diet and I started focusing on myself and getting into the minds of great leaders, right? Reading these books was something that I felt in my heart, like it warmed me up, and I wanted to emulate these leaders that I read about. God being the best leader of all, God models the way for all of us, and to be a great leader, you have to model the way. So everything that I've been able to do has been because God has showed me the way, and I started, learning other leaders in this process. So as I was restraining myself and not going out, and I was reading, and people were like, "Girl, you crazy? You're not going out. What were you doing at that time frame, Madi?" I was rarely watching TV, right? And when I did watch TV, I would only watch documentaries. I would only watch things that were going to enlighten me, that were going to inspire me, that were going to make me like pumped to do something amazing, right? To get me through the rough patches of me dealing with the physical urges of sex, dealing with the urges of doing the things that I wanted to do, right? Falling into the temptations. So I I definitely started reading different things or watching only inspirational topics. If it wasn't inspirational, it wasn't for me. So getting into the minds of these big, amazing leaders showed me a vision for myself that if they can do it, I can do it.
Mm.
Right. I wanted to emulate them. I wanted to lead a life similar to theirs. And I'm just going to give a few examples of some of the documentaries that either I saw on Netflix or the books that I read. They were just autobiographies. So one of the amazing books that I read, and these are all autobiographies. One of them is of Mother Teresa. And Mother Teresa, what I've learned from her is being a servant leader and serving others. And everything I do in my businesses, this podcast, my business funding, inquiry removal, in my 9 to 5 that I was in, my heart has always been to serve others. And I know a lot of people say, well, anything that we do, we're serving, but to have the intent that I want to serve you, to ask the questions that are going to lead to the answers of how can I be, what do you need, and how can I make that happen for you, and getting resourceful, it's on another level, because I'm not just here to just offer you, like if I'm offering you my funding services, I'm going to be like, okay, well, this is how you're going to liquidate the card. Or you got inquiries, I'm going to remove your inquiries. And I'm going to ask questions. Okay, so what does your business do and how you're going to use this money? Like, I'm going to see how else I can help outside of just helping you get the money. I'm going to see how I can add value to your life once you get this money. And if you don't need it, that's great. But just know that I'm a resource. Just know that I'm a tool and I'm a guide outside of just a transaction, right, of money. I'm not here for that. If it's just about the money, it's not for me, right? Because I know the money is going to follow me everywhere I go if I have a servant leadership mentality. And I remember the impact that I had when I read the autobiography of Mother Teresa and how much she just poured to everyone in the villages that didn't have anything, and she didn't have anything, and she was of God, right? Like, she loved God and she loved people and she loved to be of service. And I was like, wow, this, like, I mean, it was at a whole nother level. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to reach that level, but it warmed my heart. And I knew at that moment when my heart warmed up and I teared and I said, God, like, I want to mirror this. I know that this is at a whole nother level of servanthood, but I want to mirror this in some shape or form in my life. And at that time, I wasn't of a servant mindset as much as I am now. But as I have leaned more into God, as I remember these stories that I read, I can totally see that I didn't forget. These seeds were planted in me, and I am now blossoming in these amazing attributes that I read of in Mother Teresa. And I'm grateful for that. Like, she definitely mirrored and modeled the way like a great leader does. And for her, and it was serving others and that servant leadership. The next one for me that's huge, this person I admire greatly, is Oprah Winfrey, and hearing about her, reading her autobiographies and learning about her journey. Like, she was she was a poor girl from Mississippi, you know what I mean? And she showed me that it doesn't matter where you come from. Like, Oprah has built this beautiful billionaire empire, that I know I am going to emulate and probably exceed at in my lifetime. Okay. And this woman just showed me like what is possible, like, wow, how you can go from nothing, like just being, a poor town and not having, much education and not being even raised by your parents. She was raised by her grandmother. She showed me what God can do. Like, she's this just physical being in this lifetime for me that shows me it doesn't matter where you come from. God can do anything with anyone, and it doesn't matter where you're from or what you have or the accolades, the smarts. Like, no, just follow him and he got you. And Oprah also taught me, the biggest thing that she taught me is the power of being in complete surrender to God. I read this interview that Oprah said how with The Color Purple, she was she wanted the role of Celie. She wanted that role really badly, and she prayed to God. Like, she seen her, it's like she read the book, she loved it. She brought it for like a whole bunch of people, that book, when it came out. And I also read The Color Purple back then when the book came out. So I remember her speaking how she wanted to be. She wanted, like, if they ever came out with a movie, this is the role I want to play. And she got called by Steven Spielberg for the producer, director of the movie, and he was considering her. Oprah went to like fat camp, because Oprah, has been a chubby girl. Can relate to that too. So she went to fat camp thinking she had to lose weight for the role. And while she was there, she was praying and praying and praying and like hearing like God songs and praying and praying. And she got a call from, I guess, the assistants of Spielberg saying, tell Oprah to get off the treadmill. We want her just as is. She's perfect for the role, and she's gonna play Celie. And that, you know what I mean? And when Oprah said that, when that happened, she completely learned the surrender of God. Like that, you just got to surrender and everything will happen. Like she thought she had to be a certain way. She thought she had to look a certain way to fit a role. But God said, you come as you are, you know, as you are, you're perfect. And she was perfect for the role. And just hearing those stories, right, about Oprah, and there's so many other things, but these are just the ones that have impacted me, that it doesn't matter where I come from, how I look, if I'm fat, if I'm skinny, you know what I mean? It just matters that I'm in alignment with God and following his voice and following my mission. So, and with God, anything is possible. So Oprah definitely has been a big shining light for me, reading about her. The next person is Nelson Mandela, another great leader. He was a very brave man, and he stood up for what was right. I like to believe that. I like to stand up for what's right 100%. And he went to jail for 27 years. That was the biggest thing. Like, how you go to jail 27 years and come out to win a Nobel Prize? Like, who does that? Okay. You know what I mean? He was mission driven. When he believed something, his faith was unwavered. Like, and he also believed in helping other people and being of service, and just believing in his mission, and not even being in prison for 27 years stopped him. And I was like, yeah, girl, no matter what you go through, you got this. You know what I mean? Even if you're captive for all these years and you're not there, but just keep going, because God can make miracles happen through anything, through anyone at any moment, right? And the last one for me recently is Tyler Perry. So Tyler Perry has a documentary that came out. I think it's on Prime, and don't quote me. And it's called Maxine's Baby, Tyler Perry's Story. And oh my God, this taught me about following God's voice despite of what's happening on the outside. So Tyler Perry had a script that he wrote through God, like a play. And God told Tyler, you're gonna go to Atlanta, you're gonna move there. He had like not much money. And you know, Tyler grew up poor. And God told him, you're gonna go to Atlanta and you're going to bring this play to life. He did that for years and years and years, and nobody was showing up to the play. Nobody was showing up. So what happened is, over time, he gave up, and he got a 9-to-5, and he was like, that's it. I'm not going back to that. I'm going to get a job. Like, I'm homeless. I'm living out of my car. God, I hear you. I know you spoke to me. I know that was your voice, but this ain't happening. And then he got a phone call as he was in his 9-to-5, that someone said, hey, I want you to do the show, the play, one more time. Like, and he was like, nope. But then he sat with it, and he was like, okay, this one last time. So he left his job and he did it that one last time. And that was when Medea came to life. He revised that play that God told him years ago in where he came from. I think it was Chicago or something. And when God gave him that vision, he never ever stopped listening to that voice. And he kept revising that script. And what happened was Medea came to life. So he wrote a script, and he played Medea, and everybody was laughing in the crowd. And he was like, oh, I got something here. Then he created another character that he embodied and played as that person. And he just started getting more traction. And that's when Medea blew up, and that's when Tyler blew up. You know what I mean? So it goes to show, for me, when I hear Tyler's story, you know, it just reminds me of then when God tells you something, it doesn't matter how long it takes, right? When God tells you something, he's going to make it happen. You know, but sometimes you got to be at the brink of giving up, because God knows a few years ago, I gave up. A few years ago, I said, God, this is done. I don't think this is going to happen for me. And I was in a very dark place a few years ago. And we're going to speak about that later in other episodes. But it reminded me of, wow, when God seen that Tyler was at the brink of giving up, he birthed Medea. He birthed the play, and Tyler never gave up. So that to me was amazing to see. So I'm just saying, like, all these stories, all these things that I read, I wanted to emulate leaders, but it started with the way that my behavior shaped how I felt. It started with me feeling differently. And once I started feeling differently and feeling good and feeling light and feeling connected to everything, it drew me to leaders that also felt connected to everything. It led me to leaders that followed God, that had God in their heart, that had God in their life, that just followed a voice and not really knowing, but they knew it was God. They knew it was something bigger than them. And I knew that I had that too. And I wanted that. And I was going to continue to fight until it happened. And I'm still fighting. And I will continue to fight, like I said, till I'm 100 years old. It won't stop for me. Guaranteed, period. So I definitely just wanted to showcase, you know, the things that came out of me once my behaviors shifted, how I felt shifted. and how I got in alignment with other people. Even though I didn't have physical people around me, that was okay. And that is okay. If you're hearing this right now and you're like, you don't have nobody around you that you can emulate as a leader that can model the way for you for the things that you want and the behavior and the thoughts that you want, just know that there are books out there that have people, real life people that have been through stuff, that are in worse situations than you can ever be in, that came out of that on top. Doesn't matter where you're starting from, doesn't matter what you've done, right? God will turn into gold anything that you have done that you deem to be dirt. God will turn your dirt into gold, guaranteed 100%. Okay. And these people definitely taught me that. So I don't know, Antoine, like, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are some amazing leaders. I mean, that's like the cream of the crop right there. And each of them bring a different element to the experience when you think about your behaviors birthing how you feel. Like I feel like all of those different transitions you were going through as you were preparing yourself in 2011, each of those leaders added something to your pot, which allowed you to grow into this beautiful person that you are today and to develop into the person you are today. And so I think nothing happens for, by chance. It all happens as orchestrated as God put it together. I think God put those books in your life for a reason, because each part of those different stories I can see in your life and what you've shared with me. And so I just think it's beautiful. And I love the advice. Like, yeah, like for all of us, as we're going through our journey, we have to understand that God is going to speak to us and communicate to us, as we've talked about before, through intuitions and omens. And it's up to us to listen and keep that pipeline clear. And it's up to us to use those things that he shares with us to continue to change our behaviors, because we know that once our behaviors change based off those beliefs, we know we will feel much better. We know we'll feel invincible. And that's what I hear from you. It's almost like as you continue to read book after book after book, your invincibility factor continued to grow. It's like there's nothing that I can't do. Nothing's going to stop me, because Oprah did it. Nelson Mandela did it. Mother Teresa demonstrated it. Tyler Perry did it. Like it was like with each version of a leader that you read, your confidence grew. And I love that. I think that's something to definitely hold on to.
Yeah, and I think there, like you're saying, there's no coincidence that, God led me to these books. And there's other books. There's like a book that I read when I was going through getting my bachelor's degree in Trevor College. I came across a book called The Book Without a Name. And I remember that was like one of the first self-help books that I ever read in my life. I remember when I started Trevor College, that was after dropping out of high school, right? So I had no idea of nothing. And I remember I picked up that book because I've always liked to read, but I'm just more drawn to self-help books than maybe, those books that are like fictional books, that are not like just stories.
Yeah.
I like to read real life stories and things that like really happened and how people got to where they are. So The Book Without a Name also taught me a lot. In that book, she spoke about how I think she had like a disease, and how she got through it, and that she was in a dark place and she would get on her knees and cry, and how her disease was healed by God. And that was the first time I read that book. I was very young. I was probably like 19. And I remember it that again, that planted a seed. You know what I mean? That no matter what I go through, God can heal anything. God is a miracle worker, that it doesn't happen overnight, but that he's a healer. And I remember that book kind of it starts, you know what I mean? Like God had just been putting these books and these stories in my life. And I can totally see the things that I've gone through. God did that for a reason. He connected me with these souls, with these spirits, because it's like, this is you. You have this, and he's just showed me that so gracefully, so nudgingly, like he just nudged them like to me, and I'm just always abiding, like, okay, let me read this book. I don't know why, but beautiful, I'm gonna read it. And I get so much out of it, and I can totally see myself in these people, or striving to bring that out of me, because it's not like, oh, I read it and here I am. It's been years, right? But and there's more to come for me, so much more changes I want to make, and so much other belief systems that I have to work through and get through, because it's never ending, right? It's not like, oh, I'm perfect. No, but there's definitely some belief systems and certain behaviors that I shifted, that I find when I need to shift them, I do, right? Because like I said last episode, there's things that you stop for a period of time because it needs to be stopped, but then you can always fall back to the same patterns, and then you're like, oh, this is why I stopped. Because once you get back into that pattern, it's like, I see now why that's no good for me. And because I just become a hot mess again, right? So I'm just saying that God will do that. And for a period of time when you're stopping to do something, it's all for the higher good. And I'm so grateful that, God has taken me through this journey and of sacrifice, you know what I mean? And the way I see sacrifice is that sacrificing is critical for noteworthy success. And I know Napoleon Hill said that, and when I was younger and I read the book Think and Grow Rich, and he said, noteworthy success is sacrifice. And I'm grateful that sacrifice to me comes easily and effortlessly, and I will sacrifice. And it's something that in my heart, to get where I need to go, I'll do it. Maybe not everything, but most of it I'll fight through it. I'm gonna fight through it to get what I want. And planting the seed and nurturing the seed, you keep doing it even if you don't see anything. That's all a part of sacrifice, and it shows a commitment to God, right? When we're sacrificing, we're like, why we're doing this? I don't see the fruits of my labor. Why? Why? Because you're showing God that you're committed. You're
Right.
showing God that you're in this with him. That what you're saying you want, you're willing to put yourself on the line. You're willing to go through the fire. You're willing to walk through fire, right? And that just shows God, I really, really want this. Because when he gives it to you, everything is just going to be so perfectly aligned. Everything is just going to flow to you. Everything's going to work out in your favor. The doors were just wide open for you. So to get all that glory, you have to go through something. And I
Yeah.
always said this, like, I've always said this even to my brother, like, the more things that I go through, the more things that you go through. And I was like talking to him when I was young, when I was living in New York, I would say it only adds to your story. If your life is perfect and you don't make mistakes or you don't do anything, how are you going to touch people? How are you going to impact people? Like, your story is like, I feel like my life is like a book, and every chapter and everything that I'm going through builds on one another. And I want every chapter to be juicy. I want every chapter of my life. You know what I mean? To be like, wow, she went through that. Damn, she did that. I don't want it to be like, oh, Ariana said she was going to make it and she made it.
Right.
Where am I going with that story? It's like Ariana said she was going to make it at 19. And here she is at 37,
Right.
at the brink of it. Like, nothing was
Yeah.
showing. And now you see a little bit, and then you're going to see more when I'm 40 and I'm a billionaire. It's like all these things. But it was in the midst of those down times, in the midst of the sacrifices, it builds the story. And the story will be more beautiful when you're going through stuff, when you're getting through stuff, when you're showing God and you're giving him the glory for everything that he's getting you through. I believe that just shows God, oh, she's in this. She's in
Yeah.
it with me. And she is, and now I'm going to unlock the doors for her, because she followed, and she showed commitment to the cause. Because guess what? Once we get there, it's not going to be easy. Like Antoine was saying, entrepreneurship is not easy, right? It's long hours, it's sacrifice, it's investing your money, not knowing if money is going to come. It's all these things, right? So God wants to know that you're a committed person. It's not like it's just going to happen and then you get it, you don't know what to do with it. It's just going to disintegrate. It's going to fall through your fingers.
Yeah.
Right? It's just going to disintegrate. You can't maintain it. But when you're going through the fire and you've built these characters, and you've built the stamina to go through stuff, when God puts you on that platform and he puts all these things on your path, he knows you can handle it now. He knows you're going to continue sacrificing. He knows you're going to stay committed. He knows you're going to stay the course. So that's just kind of like how I see it. And my sacrifice to God, has led me to a deeper connection with God and my inner self.
I feel that. It's so interesting as you were talking about the fire and going through the fire. Just a little note for everyone that's listening. If you didn't know, the logo that we have for Evolution on the mic is actually a phoenix. Yeah, right there on your cup. And the thing about the phoenix is going through the fire. It's the rebirth that comes with the phoenix. And so I 100% felt when you were saying that our evolving, our evolution happens by going through the fire. If you're not going through the fire, how are you evolving? How are you learning something new? How are you cultivating the skills? How are you finding out what doesn't work? You can't find that out if you're not going through the fire. And so everything that this podcast is embodying as we're talking about our experiences is not to say, hey, look at us. It's like, hey, we make mistakes. We do things that get us, take us off our paths and take us off our tracks. And that's okay. You just need to figure out how to get back to your track. And that is where having like-minded friends. That's where having and reading books like we're talking about now come into play, because you start to find that, hey, there's other people that were in the same boat that I was, and they got out of it. I love the saying, success leaves clues. There's a lot of clues around us. There's a lot of people who have been through the fire, and they're like, hey, I've been through that. Here's what you need to do to get out of it. Or I've been through that and it sucked, but I can't give you any advice. You have to figure it out on your own, because it's a part of your journey. It's a part of your growth. And I think that there's so much to be said about that. And I wanted to make one other point for everyone else that's listening, and this, how this has been beautifully sculpted, in which our beliefs birth our behaviors, and then that, which is what we talked about in episode 1, and then how our behaviors affect how we feel. That can all be re-engineered. So if you, and what I mean by that is, let's do the inverse. Take a second, sit back, and think about how you feel in this moment. Once you feel what you are feeling in this moment, or maybe you can take it as a feeling of something you felt earlier, trace that back to what behavior led to that.
That's good.
And then once you feel that behavior, trace that back to what belief led to that behavior. And the beautiful thing about that is, if you trace it back and when you get to the belief and it doesn't align with where you want to be, you can change it. And then once you change it, guess what? That change in your belief births new behaviors. Those new behaviors birth new feelings. So it's important. Like, the stuff we're saying is not just like we're just saying it, be saying it. These are all tools that are meant to be able to help you to evolve. That when you're going through the fire and you feel like no one's there, you feel like no one has your hand, and you feel like you're at it all alone, we're here. We see you. We see you. So I wanted to share that, Ariana, because I feel like there's so much in this, that journey of mini, I'm gonna call it mini Ariana from 2011, that there was so much in that 12 minutes of you talking that is like what I would consider decades of experience. Like, there was things that you said then that you probably didn't understand why you were saying it, other than that you knew that your walk with God was going to be that epic. But now, talking through this with 37-year-old Ariana, and you giving us where your mind was at, what things you were going through, what tips and things you were taking, you're giving us the cheat code.
Mm-hmm.
You're compressing years and years of what you've been through into one podcast episode, or actually 3 podcast episodes, that you can get game from. So I want to thank you first for, one, being vulnerable and sharing your story with us, and also for sharing what you've learned along the way, for sharing your fire with us, because it's through your fire that we'll continue to allow our fire to burn, and for us to reach the levels we want to reach and do the things that God has for us to do.
No, you're very welcome. I do want to touch on something that you said about when we go back to how we feel and the behaviors, and then we go to the root, which is like the belief.
Yeah.
And we can change that root. I do just want to touch a little bit on that. A lot of the belief systems that I had, that were cemented in traumas, right? That were cemented in the little Ariana, the little me that went through some stuff, that went through some pain, that went through some heartache, that went, through some stuff that, like, I was carrying that weight on my shoulders. If you look at that video when I was 23 years old, I had so much pain in me, so much things I wanted to change. I felt like I was a hot mess. And so much, like, I don't regret anything, but there were so many moments I wasn't proud of, right? Leading to that video. And there's a lot of things that, like, I had to deal with. There's a lot of things that I had to work on. There's a lot of deep rooted beliefs about myself that were stemmed from my childhood, the people around me, the things they said about me, the things that, they made me believe about myself, that I'm not smart enough, that I'm going to be a bum, that I'm going to be a loser. I was like the black sheep of my family. I was always overweight, and I was called Miss Piggy, and I was called, like, oh, the football player coming in school, and I was bullied, and all these things that, like, I went through. I had to unravel all that to see myself where I'm at right now. And I'm very grateful for someone that I had in my life that helped me. I do believe in therapy, and I do have someone that helped me unravel this. And so I do just want to touch on that a little bit, on that belief system and how, there's rooted things that it's tough. But once we get to that root of the belief and we unlock that, it does trickle effect on how we behave and the behaviors and the things that we do and don't do and how we pick that. And then it also helps us feel better about ourselves when we're seeing ourselves making better decisions and, doing the things that we know is right, doing the things that we're going to be proud of. So this is a whole cycle. But even though back then I didn't know about having to deal with my traumas, I still knew that those beliefs that I had to, shift, and I had to let go of some things and add certain things. But there's more to that, and I'm sure we'll get to that in later episodes, and we'll dig deeper on belief system to that extent of the deep traumas that we face and the importance of uncovering it. And I just want to touch a bit on restraint, right? Because we're talking about how our behaviors births how we feel, right? So I do just want to talk about how important it is to shape our behaviors and what happens when we don't. So I kind of want to give you guys this that I thought about, and it basically says when you don't have restraint from doing the things that are holding you back, right? You're keeping yourself captive. You are going to stay stuck. You're going to feel stuck. So not letting go of the things that, you have to let go of, not the behaviors that, are kind of distracting you and keeping you back. You're keeping yourself captive in that. And what I've learned and what's evident to me in my journey is that when you show consistent restraint of the behaviors that are not serving your higher self, you feel free. And it all starts with the belief that you can, and anybody can do it. The belief that you can will manifest itself in a grand way for you. And having some restraint is good for you. Having some restraint, you're gonna you're gonna see the fruits of labor. You're gonna feel it initially, and then you're gonna see it in real time, in time. Yeah. So I'm very excited about this episode. You know what I mean? Today we showed you how your behaviors births how you feel. And I'm excited, for next week, for us to discuss how you feel births your reality. So I hope you guys tune in and watch that, episode in episode 3. So as usual, if you guys have any thoughts, comments, or anything that you would like to share with us, we love to hear from you. So drop a comment below. And with that, thank you for tuning in. And until our next episode, always remember that having faith in God, having faith in yourself, and having faith in others will create the evolution that you are seeking.
That's right. That's right.